morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are tuning in from today. I have a very special guest today with me, Niamh Pentony with Boyne Ergonomics. My name is Lisa Schuiteboer-Shuler. I am the in-house Ergo expert / Ergo category manager for Kensington, and I love bringing guests in to talk about ergonomics and really what they specialize in the ergonomic world and talk about trending ergo topics. So Niamh, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into ergonomics?
I will. Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me today. As you said, my name is Niamh Pentony and I'm the director of Boyne Ergonomics and I'm a workplace ergonomics consultant. My backstory is a bit long, how I got into the field of ergonomics. So way back in 2005, I completed a degree in sports science and health. Didn't know what I wanted to do with that. That area is massive. So I got a job with an occupational health provider and I actually stayed with them for like 14 years. I was their clinical technician. So I did all the stress ECGs, the pulmonary function tests, hearing tests, all the kind of tests in the background. But because of my role in there, I was in contact all the time with people who were out of work and a lot of musculoskeletal issues. I was actually based next door to a doctor who dealt specifically just with people who were out of work with musculoskeletal issues. And his diary was always full. There was a never-ending stream of people. And I remember before I even knew about ergonomics, we'd be discussing cases because of my background and his. And I'd be like, sure, why are they out of work? Like, they just work at a computer. Why are they out of work for 4 months with a sore back? And it just, I couldn't put the connection together.
Right.
And the more I got into it, I discovered ergonomics and the role that it plays when people are working.
Isn't it interesting? And you're based in Ireland, correct? Yeah. Okay. So I don't know if you guys had career days when you were younger, in your younger days of school at all? No. So in the US, at least, a lot of schools will have career days where people will come in and show you the optimal career to be and try to get you to expand your mind on all the options that are out there. And I can't tell you how many times since I've had my career in ergonomics, I wish I could go back to those days and say, hey, do you know that this exists? Because it sounds like you were in a similar boat to me that I didn't really know what it was until you started being around some of those people that were involved in it. And then it feels like it catches you like wildfire. You want to learn more. You want to help more. There's so much to the world of ergonomics that led you to where you are today. So that's really interesting with where you came from.
Yeah, and to me, it just made so much sense. It was literally a case of how have I been here like so many years and never heard of this? Why, it was a light bulb moment that you can help people either stay in work or get back to work by adjusting their workplaces and adjusting their work environments and just getting them to work in less pain, in no pain is the ultimate goal, really.
Yeah, and as you see those statistics come out, whether it's overseas, whichever side of the pond you're on, the statistics keep coming out showing that ergonomics is one of those leading causes for injuries in an office environment, which I think the more obvious one is if you are in a manufacturing or a very hands-on type job, people go, oh yeah, I can see how you can get hurt there. But they don't necessarily think about those simple things that we're doing so many times throughout the day that aren't heavy lifting, but it's heavy movement for our muscles and just that repetitive tasks that we have there too. So I'm happy you got into it. And I think one of the reasons why I had you come on the show today is I've seen you recently on LinkedIn start broadcasting a little bit about your podcast series. And I'm an ergo nerd. So I always want to hear what people are saying about it. But what made you want to do the podcast and what kind of things are you talking about on that?
Yeah, this is a little pet project of mine. So the whole goal of the Ergonomically Speaking podcast is to make this information more available and more accessible. So, and I'm sure you've found it, especially over the last 2 years, is to us in the field, there is so much information out there. There's so much research out there that tells people what they should be doing and why. But that information is really accessible to us because we're in the field. We're surrounded by all these contacts and all these associations and we see it all every day. But actually, to the average person sitting at home working on their laptop and working on the computers, they're not seeing this information. And there's, like, I put out blog posts, I put out like regular social media updates, but I'm still meeting people on virtual assessments who are still working on laptops, using the kitchen chair and, really hunched over in really bad postures, plus sitting for hours at a time. So the message is not getting out to the people who are actually working from home using the laptops. So it was just to provide another way of providing this really accessible information. The aim and the kind of target audience is the user, and then the people who are responsible for managing the health of the users. So get the information out there, make it really easy to understand, really accessible, and hopefully people can listen to it. Ultimately, I'd love people to listen to it while they're actually at their desk, so they can look around and go, oh, where are my elbows? Where is my screen? Where is my mouse? Because if you're out, like, it's great to be out walking, but you're not thinking of your workstation when you're out walking. So the information's lost. Whereas I find even myself, if I'm sitting at a desk and I'm listening to something relevant, I'm looking going, oh God, actually, yeah, my heels don't touch the floor. I should get something under my feet. So that was the kind of aim of it, I suppose. And I've been kind of mentally threatening to do it for about a year. But to be honest, I'm actually, I'm very introverted. I'm quite shy. So it was actually a big step to even put it out there. But I'm glad I did, because I've got some really good feedback and some messages from people saying, oh, I changed this and I could feel the difference in my shoulder straight away. And that's great. That's all I want.
Yeah, I will say a similar experience that whenever I talk to people, even within Kensington or outside of Kensington, especially when we're on video, I think, but when I'm typically talking to someone about any type of ergonomic topic, and obviously we have a ton of different products at Kensington for ergonomics, people will say, I think I'm sitting up straighter when I talk to you. I'm watching where my hands are on my desk when I talk to you. I moved my laptop riser up or my monitor arm or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that people do start associating you as a person and your voice and what you stand for. So through your podcast series, if they are listening to it at their desk there, that I have a feeling probably even beyond the podcast, they have those little snippets of information they learned come through, but totally agree with you. Very beneficial to have while you're doing it at the workstation. And I always joke with people about it that I said, yeah, you just need to talk to me every day. And then there's going to be no fatigue setting in or anything like that, because ergonomics will always be top of mind then. But
yeah,
I think it's great. How many episodes have you done so far, did you say?
I have 4 done and the 5th ready to go.
Okay,
later
awesome.
Later today.
Yeah, and I think it's so important, as you mentioned as well, that since the pandemic, especially, more and more people are tuning into the topic of ergonomics because they may not have that person down the hall in the office to go talk to as readily available, which they can still send an email or go through the route that they need to talk to someone about getting an intervention if they need to for their desktop space. But people are really trying to self-educate themselves more. So having all of that good information out, I know for us with Kensington, I've been pumping out blog posts just to really go to relevant, easy to digest topics so that people can get those tidbits of information. And I've seen you've put a lot out about footrest or different items to use throughout the desk too. So I think that's great to see, even as people are scrolling through social media, to just go, oh, what was that? Stop, take a look. And those bite-sized pieces is so important to have.
Yeah, and I think as well, like, people have never spent more time at their desk than they are now. So what I found, especially when we kind of came out of the restrictions a little bit and people started to do the 50-50 home and office, they were all of a sudden having a problem in the office that they didn't have before, because even though they were there, the meetings were still virtual. They were still stuck at the desk for these prolonged periods, whereas before they were up and down, going here and there. So little things that might have been a problem we would have picked up before, but never gave them an issue or gave them any kind of discomfort, now all of a sudden started to cause a problem. So I think as well, it's not just that people are at home. People have never spent so much time at their desk as they are now. So things have to be right.
Yeah, I think that brings us to our next topic, which can go kind of two different directions here. So first, we'll talk about what you were already talking about, the challenge that people are having at home, at their workstation, or maybe going to and from the office. What are some of the biggest challenges you see in those types of situations?
Definitely for the home workers, it's space. Like we all know, like especially, me and you, we know what everyone should have when they're working from home. We know you should have your desk and your office chair and your screen, your keyboard, your mouse. The reality of it is not everybody has the space. You've got people who are co-living with, with numerous other people, and they have to work from their bedrooms because, you can't all work in your kitchen. There's no such, spare room. Not everyone has one. So space is a really, really big issue. So it's trying to sit down and go, right, what works for you? What else do you use this space for? So how can we get it set up that it can all be really easily tidied away? Or how can we maybe adjust this desk that you can actually sit at it properly? Could we pull that keyboard tray out? It's banging off your knees. Let's move that away because we can't fit a big desk in the space. So a lot of it is actually trying to get it all to fit where they're living and working all together. You know what I mean? It's not everyone has a spare room. I myself don't have one. That's no problem. But you can make it work. You just have to find a way. That's definitely one of the biggest challenges I found is just getting people to be able to fit what they need into their space. And for some people, getting them to let go of a bit of space. Like I've had people who have spare rooms, but they didn't want to give the spare room over to work.
Yeah.
Because they felt like they were giving a bit too much of their home then to work. But once you do that and you can fit the equipment in and you can see even the psychological barrier of walking out of that room in the evening and shutting the door and leaving it there till the morning, they're really glad they did it. But some people who did have space were quite reluctant to let it go.
Yeah, that gives a whole new meaning to the work-life balance that I know for me personally, that's been really important that when I had my setup in a common space in my area, even though it was a dedicated office space, I still could see it from my kitchen or I could see it when I walked by. And so having it be in that closed off space that when you're done with work, you're done and then you're on to life, I think is really important if you have that availability. Now, I know not everybody can do it that way, but I think you bring up a really good point about maybe trying to rethink how your life inside your house is structured and what part is dedicated to that work zone that you don't necessarily have to visit after work hours and you can just kind of shut that space or close it off in a different way. Maybe it's not physically, but trying to figure out what you can do to have that balance. So, I mean, that's a great point.
Yeah, that's where portable equipment comes in. Like we were talking about challenges of people going back to the office. And one thing I found is people want their equipment to be light and portable because they're going to be bringing it from home to the office. They might have to go work on sites, client sites, come back. So I find portable equipment works really well for the hybrid model, but also the people at home that don't have the space because it can all be packed away in the evening. It can be put into the laptop bag, put away in the evening so you're not looking at it, or put in the laptop bag so you can bring it from site to site. Like I have portable equipment here. I actually measured it one day because someone said to me, the keyboard, the compact keyboard, the mouse, the laptop stand, that's going to add weight to my bag, and I'm going to hurt my shoulder or hurt my back carrying it in and out. I measured the weight of a really light, compact laptop stand, something similar to the SmartFit Go, a compact keyboard, and my normal vertical mouse, and it was 756 grams is what those three pieces of equipment weighed on their own. So that's nothing. If you put that in a laptop bag, you will not notice it. And trying to explain to people that you can have a good setup no matter where you're working if you have the right portable equipment.
Yes. Yeah. And I agree. I think that previously people would look at those portable pieces of equipment for people that were always on the road or they wanted to go work at their nearest cafe versus their home space. But I think with, like you said, the hybrid work model and people that are compromised on the amount of space that they do have available, that does become their permanent work setup. So having those essential tools that they can just push away at the end of the night or physically put inside a bag to say, I'm done with work for the day. I always find, how can we get rid of the excuse to take out the poor ergonomics, and having that lightweight portable equipment is certainly a key to that. And I know previously when I was consulting like you are now in ergonomics, that was always a situation that we came up to of, I don't have space in my bag. And you can see back here, this is out right now, but it's no bigger than a school notebook would be. So most people can slip in that into their type of bag, and then the compact keyboard. And we'll talk about that more in a minute. But having those types of equipment available that don't take up very much space is so key for that success when space is the big issue there. So
yeah, and I think employers need to realize that as well in what they're providing their employees. Like a lot of employers send out just your standard office size keyboard, and then I have heard where they should bring that in and out to the office, but that's not practical.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen is that's going to stay in the office, and they're just going to bring the laptop home.
Yeah.
Which you've done, you're kind of losing there, really. So I think portable equipment really is what employers should be kind of looking to provide their employees if they are going to look for a hybrid work model with them.
Now, is that a requirement in Ireland for employers to provide that portable type of equipment if that's what they choose as their work setup, or is that still kind of a gray area?
It's still a gray area. Like the requirement at the moment is to provide the equipment to allow them to work from home safely.
Gotcha.
The portability, the size, that's all just, not really written anywhere in stone.
Well, we'll keep working on that because I feel like it will come eventually, but it's just getting the word out through things like this and what you're doing with marketing, with what we're trying to do with our products as well to really make them accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
The other part of the challenges I wanted to ask you about too is as a business owner, I'm assuming you had to pivot a little bit when you went into lovely pandemic times. What have you found has worked really well for yourself as a business owner for ergonomic assessments? As I know, I'm personally connected, and as I'm sure you are, to a lot of other consultants and are always looking for how can I do my job better? How did I get through that struggle? As I'm sure you're not alone in what you experienced.
Oh yeah, pivot is not the word. Before COVID, my friends will testify, I would not even video call. I would not FaceTime anybody. I absolutely hated video calling. I can still remember my first virtual assessment. I was like, I can't do this. Like, how am I going to do this? I'm not there with the person. I need to see them. But how quickly we overcome. But it's definitely been a learning curve. You know yourself. What I find works really well is, one, getting photos in advance. If you're going to be doing an assessment on somebody virtually, get the pictures of their equipment. And if you can, the side view of their posture always works really well because it just gives you an idea of what you're about to dive into with that call. You know kind of you can prepare yourself better and get to your points quicker. The other thing I find is getting people to log on to the virtual calls on their phone. That is a big thing I try and encourage. Whether it's Zoom, Teams, WhatsApp, whatever it needs to be, the phone is so easily moved around. They can show me the foot, they can show me the knee, I can see where the elbow is, I can see what the front of their desk looks like. I can see everything that I need to see much easier with the phone because people are trying to move laptops around and you're going to a call and the laptop's connected to 5 different things and they're trying to disconnect it and then you lose connection. So I normally try to say to people, if you can you please log on to the call on your phone? And that was a learning curve. The first year, I think everybody did them by laptops because that's what we knew. And then we said, let's try this by phone because your phone cameras are so good now that you can see everything you need to see without them trying to maneuver the laptop around.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip. I know when I've had to do virtual assessments before, the photos are great. What I found sometimes happened with those, which I'm sure you've experienced the same, is that people would either have, so we would always ask for them to be in the photos. So have someone they live with or a friend or family member take the photos. And I have never seen so many rigid, stiff people in my life. Well, they're yes, their shoulders are way too far back.
You don't sit like that. You don't sit like that.
And then even just looking at their setup and everything, the way that the picture is taken, if you take it too high or too low, angles can look really skewed. So that's a great tip on using your mobile phone to do the assessment so that you can move it around. And I think for the most part, one positive note that has come from the pandemic is people have got over that fear of having to look perfect on camera 24/7. Because it used to be that, oh, I'm going to have a FaceTime call, or I'm going to do this, conference call with people. I have to have everything pristine and everything's like this. And when you're going into their home work environments, then, I mean, that's life. You're entering into their space. So
my first guy this morning was in his pajamas. He just, as he logged on, he said, "Oh, this is the only time I could fit in, but actually I'm still in my pajamas. Is that okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not assessing you. I'm assessing your clothes. I'm assessing your workstation. So I don't mind. I'm fine. I don't mind." And I think, a lot of people I get all the time is, "Oh, please ignore the mess." I'm like, I'm not looking at this at all. I just want to see how you sit and what you sit in and what you use and how you use it. None of what's in your home is of any interest to me,
And honestly, when they are in their pajamas or there might be clutter on their desk, that they are giving you the real life snapshot versus, maybe some people do have their desk pristine every single day of the week and they do get dressed in a suit jacket and everything. But
fair play.
I think majority does not. So trying to see people in that real life environment really should help them get the most from that ergonomic assessment that you complete for them too.
Yeah, or one thing I find is, I'm sure you've seen it yourself in assessments, is the notebooks. People will tidy away all their notebooks. And I'm going, no. Where is it though normally? Like, where do you normally have the notebook? Because you'll find they put it down in front of them, they put the keyboard beyond it, and then they end up leaning over to try and type on the keyboard. So I like them to leave it as it should be, because then you get an idea of how they work and you can advise them better. If you don't see it, you can't advise on it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that we're going to go back to the topic that we were talking about a little bit before, because I don't want to take up too much of anybody's time. And if anyone has a question that is listening in live today, let us know. You can drop a question in the comments. We're happy to answer it. But you can find all of our information for the products that we show today at kensington.com. And then with Niamh at boyneergonomics.ie. So make sure to check us out or connect with us on LinkedIn if you have any questions after the broadcast today, and we're happy to answer those. But I always like to end with what are some of the most recommended Ergo products that you would say that you've been making? I think we've talked about a few, and I could grab them and do a little show and tell as we kind of talk about the types that I have a feeling I know some of the ones you're going to say.
So as standard, like most people, your portable laptop stand is, I'd say it's the product of the last 2 years, realistically. Because we need to raise our laptops up. But like I said, a lot of people want to be able to tidy it all away at the end of the day. So having a nice portable adjustable laptop stand, because we're not all the same stature. So one height doesn't suit everybody. It needs to be adjustable. It needs to be portable. So that's, I'd say, for most ergonomists, the most recommended piece of equipment of the last 2 years. But then goes along with, if you're using your laptop stand, you need your keyboard and you need your mouse. So again, I always try and go for compact keyboards, thinking of portability and space saving. And then for mice, I tend to go vertical. It's me. I just find it is such an easy win. It is such a quick way to take away one big risk when using the computer compared to your standard horizontal mouse. I know there are other alternatives out there that a lot of ergonomists prefer, but I know for my clients and the people I deal with, they want a quick win. They want something that's going to work straight away. It's not going to impact their productivity. There's no learning involved as such. They just plug it in and go. And for me, that's the vertical mouse.
Yeah, I think that the vertical mouse has been a very quick win for a lot of people. And I know from my consulting days too, that the vertical mouse was something that most people that were a little resistant to change would consider trying. Yeah. And I think the easiest way to describe it, which, you can certainly tell me if you differ in opinion, is that since you still have that similar type of clicking with the left and the right click and the scrolling in the center, just moving that to a vertical type position is still intuitive in our brain to have that same mousing motion. It's just giving our wrist the chance to actually have less fatigue by the end of the day. Exactly.
Take some of the stress off the elbow, take some of the stress off the wrist, some of the contact stress off the wrist. I do, like, a lot of people are resistant because when they think of an alternative mouse, they think of, your trackballs, your central pointing devices, your penguin mice, your pen click mice. These all have a function. But especially working from home, people are so busy that if they struggle with using it, if there's a learning curve in using a device, they will put it to the side and they will take back the old mouse.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reality of it. Whereas at least with the vertical mouse, it's just a shift in hand position. And it still operates the same. And I find it's actually harder to use it incorrectly. Like, you know yourself, your vertical mouse, it's very easy to just do that.
Yeah.
This is not so natural. This doesn't feel right. You know, so it's much easier to use a vertical mouse wrong. Oh, sorry, it's harder to use a vertical mouse wrong. You know, whereas, and it's a quick win. Like, after a day, you'll get used to it. But because it operates the same with your click buttons, with your scroll wheel, there's no learning curve. It's not slowing anybody's productivity down. You know, whereas I find if you try to bring in something that, yeah, we know it works better, but there is a learning curve. And if it slows them down at all, they're not going to use it. They're just going to go back to the mouse. So you have to look for quick, easy wins.
Yeah, Kensington, two of their favorite, which I prefer white in my office. So I get, picky about that kind of stuff. But we do have it in black or white. But we've got two slightly different form factors that I personally think one is better for smaller hands versus this one, I believe, is better for that more petite hand. And then this one is more for the average to larger size hands. And what I've found with vertical type mice is that you grab it, and if it feels comfortable, it's going to feel comfortable for a long time. If you initially grab it and you're like, oh, it feels too small or it feels awkward, then a lot of times you're not going to keep gravitating towards it. And like you said, you're going to go back to your normal mouse. But if anyone is out there listening that is wondering if they can personally switch to vertical mouse, my best advice I can give you is that if you are going to switch and you're really resistant to the change and nervous it's going to screw up your spreadsheet you're working on or something like that, start using it for like an hour a day. You can have two mice plugged in at the same time. And so then you can start gradually increasing your tasks that you do on the vertical mouse. And I say typically for almost any ergonomic product, it's usually like a 2-week window to really feel comfortable with that product. And anytime, even when we send out products to review or people are giving us feedback on them, they say, let me use it for a couple weeks to see what I really think of it. So having that time period to really adjust, but honestly, the vertical mouse is one that most people go, why didn't I do this before? It's so much easier.
Exactly. Or why are they not all shaped like this? Where did this horizontal mouse come from? Why is it shaped this way? Because when you know, it just doesn't really make that much sense, to be honest.
Yeah.
As I said, the vertical mice with the compact keyboard, I find to be really, really quick wins. You're improving your shoulder position. You're improving your elbow position. You're improving your wrist position, taking away so much stress, especially if you're right-handed. Because you know yourself with your standard keyboard, your number pad's on the right-hand side. You take that away, your right shoulder is in a better position. You have much less stress on the whole right-hand side, which I think is very important for anyone who's right-hand dominant, which I know is most people, because the right arm and the right shoulder just does so much when you're sitting at a desk. And I know nobody thinks of it, but the right side is always on the go, so if you can take some of the workload off, improve the positioning, you're taking away your risk of an upper limb disorder on the right-hand side, which I've definitely seen an increase in with home working for sure.
Yes, for sure. For sure. And the last thing I'll leave you with too is just, this is my Ergo kit. So this is the SmartFit Easy Rise Ergo. And you can see it's literally like the size of a notebook. Yeah. I've got the vertical mouse here and then the compact keyboard, which I will show you. I mean, it's small that you can just
so
put
it in
any
go into your bag. Yeah.
And then with the keyboard, I mean, it's literally this small and very, very thin there. So to me, it's a win. I typically keep a set in my backpack when I am going to take my laptop somewhere so that it's not a case of, oh, I forgot to bring it with me, but it's already in there. Yeah. But, that being said, I think having it be easily accessible, you will be the envy of people if you pull out this type of equipment at a cafe and start working, because they're going to be like, why didn't I think of that? They look so much more comfortable. So if you want that to be you, certainly contact Niamh to get the best recommendations for you, or you can visit kensington.com as well. And like I said, we've got lots of blog posts recommending different items based on different criteria. And then Niamh would be, I'm sure, more than happy to assess you. And she's got that great podcast as well. So Niamh, thank you so much for coming on the show today. And I appreciate you coming out of your introverted shell during the pandemic that we could connect. I think it's been Really, really great to talk to you today. If anyone has any questions, again, please connect with us on LinkedIn, and we're happy to answer those questions there. But until next time, have a great Wellness Wednesday, and thanks for joining in today.